Study 20. Reorder your life around God. Back in the first study of this book, we saw that there's an epidemic of busyness among Christians. And throughout this book, we've seen that two of the consequences of our busyness are a compromised relationship with God and a lower quality of life. Did you know, though, that these same problems have plagued God's people for thousands of years? That's how pervasive they've been. 2,500 years ago, for example, a prophet named Haggai delivered much the same message to the people of Israel as you've heard in this book. Makes you wonder when we're going to learn our lesson. You might recall that Haggai was a post-exilic prophet. That is, he taught and wrote after the Babylonian exile. When many of the Israelites returned from captivity in about 538 BC, they began rebuilding the temple that was destroyed decades earlier. But as of 520 BC, when Haggai enters the scene, the temple is still in ruins. This is not a trivial matter since the temple wasn't just any building, and it wasn't just a place of worship and sacrifice. In Old Testament times, the temple was, first and foremost, a place for God to dwell among His people. He didn't dwell in the hearts of believers as He does in the New Covenant. For God to be among and in relationship with His chosen, there needed to be a temple. Consider then what is implied by a temple lying in ruin. Relationship with God is not a priority for these people. It's not even on the radar screen. Why is that? Haggai 1:2 and 1:4 tell us. This is what the Lord of hosts says. These people say the time has not yet come for the house of the Lord to be rebuilt. Is it a time for you yourselves to live in your paneled houses while this house lies in ruin? Paneled houses. At the time, a paneled house was an extravagantly built house, something that required a lot of time and effort to build, something with multiple rooms, modeled in cedar, something that takes significant resources to build and that one cares for meticulously. Apparently, these folks had been busy doing things that have worldly value rather than doing something about which God cared. And God, through Haggai, strikingly called their attention to it. Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains in ruin? Fast forward 2,500 years and ask yourself the same question. How's my relationship with God these days? What's my temple look like? Have I built it? Do I attend to it? Am I taking the time to maintain it? Or has my schedule relegated the development of my relationship with God to perpetual back burner status? Is my temple of relationship with God a project that I'm always intending to get to, but for various reasons, I never quite get there? If your temple is lying in ruin, if God is regularly crowded out of your life, like He was for the Israelites, then these consequences described in Haggai 1, verses 5, 6, and 9 will probably resonate with you. Now this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You've planted much, but have harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. You expected much, but see, it turned out to be little. What you brought home, I blew away. Why? Declares the Lord Almighty. Because of my house, which remains a ruin, while each of you is busy with his own house. Do those outcomes sound familiar? Have you experienced this in your own life? Has all your busyness brought you real life satisfaction, or has it reduced the quality of your life? Have you reaped commensurate with what you've sown, or is your experience closer to you plant much, but harvest little? You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. Living a life that was too cluttered to spend time with God only brought the people of Israel dissatisfaction and discontentment. That's because, as some people learn too late, a life without God at the center is ultimately an unsatisfying life. If you're a busy person who's still finding yourself to be restless, dissatisfied, or frustrated with what your life has become, perhaps it's time to examine that temple of yours and reorder your life around God. Perhaps God has sent this study to be your Haggai, inviting you to finally put first things first.
Think about it. Haggai indicates that if we allow the busyness of life to distract us from God, we'll be prevented from enjoying a satisfying life. Might this be a root cause of why your life isn't all that you want it to be? For group discussion, what sort of progress have you made throughout this study, and what lessons from the book of Haggai could help you to sustain that progress? Talk to God about it. Read Haggai chapter 1 and notice something. After being admonished, the people quickly rebuilt the temple, and God promised that He would be with them. No matter how long we've allowed ourselves to be distracted from God, He welcomes us back. Why not take a few minutes right now and commit to God that you'll rebuild your temple of relationship with Him in full confidence that He'll rejoice in your decision? Your Freedom from Busyness Plan, Part 20. Write down the most important thing you can do to ensure that the busyness of your life will never again undermine your relationship with God.